Hello, everybody. Welcome to Imagine Native, our very first Q&A with the shorts programs. Today, we are speaking with a bunch of the filmmakers from our East Shorts program. My name is Siku Alalu. I'm Inuk and Haitian Taino from Denende, which is in northern North America. And I'm zooming in today from beautiful Coast Salish territories. I'm one of the programmers with this year's festival and was very delighted to be able to help select all of these really beautiful, touching and inspiring films by mostly emerging and youth Indigenous filmmakers from all around the world. So thank you for joining us, everybody, and we're so happy to have you. I think I will go around and just let you introduce yourselves. Oh, I forgot to say I'm wearing a black sweater, silver earrings, red lipstick, and I have dark hair and I'm wearing glasses. So we can please just include your visual descriptors as well. Thank you. Maybe I'll start with CJ.
Okay, kia ora, talapalava. My name is CJ and I'm coming live from Christchurch in Aotearoa.
And Trevor, I'm going to go around my screen here.
Sure. Okay, Niswanagok Sanakson. My name is Trevor Solway. I'm a block book filmmaker from Sixaga. I'm coming from Calgary, wearing a black shirt. I have short curly hair, got black eyes. Pretty plain, I guess.
Victoria?
Bonjour, Victoria Nadishnikas. Hi, I'm Victoria Anderson Gardner. I am currently in Thunder Bay, Ontario, and I come from Treaty 3 territory. Mm-hmm. And I'm wearing an orange scarf, black shirt, gold and white earrings, and I have short, like a bob, brown hair and brown eyes.
Rafael?
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Rafael Mojica Gil, soy de la tribu Huivo de la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta y muy contento por esta gran invitación en este importante evento. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Kayla.
Kia ora koutou, ko Kayla toku ingoa, here tēnei no Ngāti Kahungunu ki te Waroa me Ngāti Parau. Hi, my name's Kayla. I'm live from Waiheke Island in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I have long, dark blonde hair, brown eyes. I'm wearing a green top with a greenstone necklace, and I'm in front of a plain white background.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So just for our audience, we have the filmmakers today who have shared their work with us. CJ is the director of Junior, Trevor Solway directed Dear Friend, Victoria Anderson Gardner directed Namid, Raphael directed Matuna, and Kayla directed Kahurangi. So I wanted to start off with just maybe asking, and whoever feels like they'd like to jump in and talk, then you can just jump in. I am really interested to know what inspired you to make the film that you did.
I'll go first.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, if you don't mind. Initially, what happened was the story was, it was an underdog story. It was about a youth set in South Auckland. So that was a very important topic for me and especially for the cast and crew that came on board. And just the backstory, the actual character, the lead character was a male teenager, but Agnes, who plays the lead, she came in audition, knocked it out of the park, and so I just went and cast her anyway, and just thought it would just added a lot more depth anyway to the story. So, you know, in South Auckland, it's important to have positive images of ourselves and have characters that are going through these things and then coming out with positive ending. So yeah, that was my inspiration for it. Yeah. Thank you.
I can go next. I directed Dear Friend, and Dear Friend is like an experimental documentary that a young lady wrote this poem. Her name is Tyra Crosschild, and she starred in the film and narrated it as well. And so she wrote this poem about her struggles with anxiety and social anxiety. And when I heard her read this poem at an event, it really I seen it really visually, and it really made me sympathize and empathize with Indigenous youth, because I've you know, kind of been all around my territory teaching workshops and doing film classes, and sometimes when you're, you know, teaching youth, sometimes they look shy or rude or disengaged, and I think sometimes we put a lot of unfair expectations on our youth when they could be going through problems that we know nothing about.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to make this film, you know, to kind of like give shed some light on that on awareness on mental health. I also had a younger cousin who passed away recently from suicide, and I think she struggled a lot with depression. And so when I heard this poem, it really made me think of her and made me understand maybe why she took her life. And so, you know, this film in a lot of ways helped me cope and grief. And yeah, so that's a bit about the inspiration.
That's so powerful.
I could go next. So hi, I am the director for NAMID, co-director, I should say. I co-directed this alongside my friend Sagi, and the inspiration for it, we kind of, I think, we're a little bit pushed into our idea, but for good reason, because we got a grant from Real Canada and Netflix in order to create a short film for National Canadian Film Day. And so me and him had been talking about this idea of kind of amalgamating one of his ideas to use VFX and fancy shawl dancers. And then kind of just, he's not actually Indigenous at all. So he like asked me if there's like some sort of story that he thought could go with that sort of visual. And so from there, I had a few different ideas happening just because I was dealing with grief. I had lost my brother and my sister in the past few years. And so I think I've just been on like a healing journey of like trying to discover how to heal from that, and then how to encourage other people to heal from the same sort of traumas. And so that's kind of what happened with the story, is that I wrote a poem kind of talking about reconnecting with the land, but also reconnecting with like our older generations. And I guess like trying to bridge that gap between like the older and younger generations. And so that's what you see on screen, because the film itself is about this young Ojibwe fancy shawl dancer who goes out onto the land to go dance again. But she's having a difficult time with it. So she kind of has this poetic dialogue with her grandfather. And through this exchange of dialogue, she finds that strength in herself again to keep dancing.
Mm. Yeah, each film in this program is so heartfelt and so moving and so real. It's really beautiful to put them all together.
I'll jump in, I guess. So I think for me, for the inspiration for my film was, well, I was at film school and they said that we had to do a short film. And I thought that a story that I wanted to tell was a story that I could relate to. So one about like a young girl that is, she's Māori, but she doesn't know that much about her culture. And I mean, I know like a lot more now because I'm a bit more reconnected with it, but obviously, you know, because my grandmother wasn't allowed to speak Te Reo or anything, we kind of lost a lot of that. So I was inspired to, you know, write a story that I could relate to. And then from that, it's interesting that if you were talking about grief, because that kind of started to come into it a little bit as I was writing it, because I've always been really interested with how how people deal with loss differently, and especially young people. So that kind of became quite a big part of the film. So yeah, I suppose I was just inspired by yeah, how young people deal with loss and also reconnecting with what they have lost, including their own culture. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Bueno,
Amazing.
para mí, la invisibilización de nuestra cultura como tribu, pueblo Wiwa de la Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, me llevó o me inspiró a hacer esta obra audiovisual, ya que es la única manera de darnos a conocer tanto la cultura, pero también como las costumbres y las historias que hacen parte de, de nuestra existencia y nuestro vivir del día a día, ¿no? Entonces, esto me llevó a mí a crear, llevar de la historia, pero también el día, del día a día de nuestra cultura, como vivimos en nuestra comunidad, me inspiró a realizar esa obra.
Gracias. I should have mentioned at the beginning that the theme of this program is welcoming the loving light by mostly emerging and young filmmakers. And it's really sharing the wisdom and the strength and the brilliance of young people from each of our nations and our territories. It was really incredible to see how they all, you know, fit together and bring these different aspects that each of you shared, like the mentorship, CJ, when I was always told that, like, if, you know, you're somebody in your family maybe isn't really able to fulfill their role, you find somebody else who's able to fulfill that role. And it was really, really beautiful and special to see that relationship between the coach and this young fighter. I'm so glad that you went with her, because I think you're right, it really did bring a different element that's quite powerful. With Dear Friend, it I think so many young people can absolutely relate to the film that you brought together, Trevor, and see themselves reflected. And as an auntie, I felt so appreciative that you really you brought that authentic voice with so much compassion and so much wisdom. I think that I want everybody to see this film and be able to understand young people much better. And Victoria, the connection with the land is so striking and beautiful, and the intergenerational aspect is absolutely there. I feel like it's also a very healing film. And with Matuna, I just love that you brought the different senses of time, like the ancestral time, and informing a current situation and a young person finding his power and the connection going into the earth, and being able to connect and, you know, triumph, become a hero, because we, like, our traditional values always hold young people as being very sacred and as teachers and leaders. And I love that you were able to share this film that has a very young hero. And with Kahurangi, the part that struck me the most was a young person, the friend who kind of gave Kahurangi the courage to connect herself and to teach one another. Yeah, it was, all of these are so beautiful. I'm gonna cry. I guess what I am interested in asking next is, as Indigenous filmmakers, as Maori and Blackfoot, and just all of our nations, what has drawn you to work with the medium of film in particular, and how do you reflect your culture? How do you bring your cultural values into that process? Maybe we'll go in the same order.
Okay, I think growing up, there just wasn't that many images of us, in film and in TV. And when there was, you sort of had to really grab it, and hold on to that, because a lot of the time that we saw ourselves was very negative. Stereotypes with gang members in New Zealand and Samoa. That's how we're portrayed, as just criminals and unemployed, and it's not like those things don't exist, but I think what we've learned, I think, and what's coming through now is we're using this medium to readdress those things and change how the narrative of where we come from and our perspective, and making sure that the world see us through our lens, as opposed through colonial lens. And to me, that's probably the hugest thing. Is it's you could see it coming through now, and it's such a beautiful, rich tapestry of knowledge and history that is coming through, especially through young filmmakers. So for me, that's probably the most important thing, is really changing the storyline, basically.
Yes.
And also, I think also on the business side of things, having control of that too is also important. I feel like, because we have been traumatized by suits, historically, that we felt sort of uneasy to go into that side of the business. But I really believe that that's such a huge important thing, as well as us being the creative side, is to also make sure we have control of our own products and content. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. And bringing everyone else on board too. Being in control means that we can also bring our people with us without them getting left behind, because we're not the ones in charge of choosing the HODs for our product, and our stories. So yeah. Sorry if I spoke too long. Yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely with you, everything you said.
For me, I think I grew up in Siksika most of my life, all of my childhood, and it's the second largest reserve in Canada, so it's pretty big in terms of land mass, and can feel pretty isolated. And I didn't really leave my grandpa's ranch a whole lot, so I didn't really pick up a camera until I was 21. But I grew up surrounded by a lot of story and a lot of language, and my grandpa would just tell story after story. He was this old rancher, and he would just, every time we would do a chore or something, he always had a story to go with it. And so I think our generation are in a really unique spot where we still have access to our older people and our elders, and holding on to those values of oral storytelling, but also having all these tools and resources and connections at our fingertips, at our phone and our laptop. And so I think I kind of see it like that one Spider-Man movie when Tobey Maguire is holding that train and he has two webs. So I kind of feel like that sometimes, where I'm holding holding on to the olden days and also looking forward into the future. And I think we're moving towards a our society, we're always confronted with images all the time. If it's on TikTok or Instagram or all these social medias that are moving towards more image heavy presentation. And, in streaming services and, there's a new one, it seems like every day. And I think there's a really interesting spot for Indigenous filmmakers to come out of that and our stories to be heard and to leave these more traditional ways of mediums that were kind of gatekept by white folks for a long time. And so I think, a film like Dear Friend, if I want to, open that topic of Indigenous youth and mental health, I think film is the most effective way to do it. And I guess, it's reaching the most people in the least amount of time. So that's why I chose the medium of film. Yeah.
Cool.
So for myself, I feel like I'll echo a lot of CJ and Trevor just because it's definitely a lot of similar reasons. But the original thing that brought me to film was that I think I watched a film at the right time when I was going through a really difficult place in my life. And I think that happens with a lot of people that go into film. There's a film that they can pinpoint that just sticks with them because they watched it at the right time. And I think that goes for a lot of people outside of film as well who just happen to watch something at the right time. And I think if I hadn't have seen the film, which is called Another Earth, at the time, that I feel like I would have gone down a different path because I had a new perspective on life from watching the film. And so from there, I decided that I wanted to create that same sort of impact for someone. And so going into each film that I make, an intention that I keep behind the scenes all the time within myself is that after this is done, I hope that I can impact at least one person. And I just try to keep that intention with each film I make so that I don't overwhelm myself either, but I'm doing what I set out to do. But that goes along the lines of reconnecting with, I think, my Indigenous identity as I've gotten older because I was so ashamed of it for so long. And within media growing up, I didn't really see that good of representation, or at least, I guess it was always very stereotypical, as CJ had said. And so wanting to rechange the story and create this new media for the next generations to come. And I think just continuing that and making sure to document stories of the elders who are all getting a lot older. And so just making sure to try to keep the stories going and encourage the next generations to keep telling stories as well. I feel like I could go on for a long time, but I'm gonna pass it off.
Thank you. I have a translation from Raphael. Raphael, are you okay if I read the translation from your own words?
Bueno, a nosotros nos lleva a trabajar el cine por la siguiente razón. Es que cómo llegarle a la sociedad no indígena con un mensaje claro, sin tergiversar el mensaje y la realidad que vivimos, ¿no? Eso nos lleva a nosotros a hacer cine, porque en su momento también éramos mostrados a través de terceros, de personas ajenas a la cultura y a su manera de ver, y no como nosotros miramos o pensamos. Eso causa un disgusto en nuestra comunidad o en nuestro pueblo, y nos obliga a nosotros a aprender un poco el tema del cine para ser nosotros mismos los autores de las obras y ser nosotros mismos quien nos autovisibilicemos hacia afuera, porque nuestra cultura siempre estaba un poco invisibilizado y las veces que nos mostraban eran a través de personas de afuera. Eso nos lleva inmediatamente pues a apropiarnos de estas herramientas y utilizarla para contar historias desde, desde nuestra visión. Y eso nos lleva al cine y no la fotografía o la pintura, porque eso es algo estático que se congela allí. Y por eso nosotros preferimos o optamos por hacer cine para mostrarle, compartir con la sociedad de afuera, digamos, esas historias, esa cosmogonía, porque pues como diversas culturas, visión, a veces es muy difícil entendernos y conocernos, pero el cine nos lleva muy lejos a compartir esa riqueza cultural que tenemos en la sierra y en nuestra cultura, ¿no? Entonces, por eso nosotros, o yo personalmente opté por hacer cine, ¿no? Y no fotografía o pintura como la pregunta que hacen, ¿no? Ese es el motivo el cual yo decido hacer cine.
Gracias, Rafael. I am not sure if the live script is, the translations are coming through for the audience side, but I can share what Rafael messaged, the translation. I'm so sorry. But just to, I really want to make sure that the audience is able to get your message, Rafael. So he says, for me, the only way I can express my cultural traditions, stories, and histories that are part of my daily life is visually. And so I do it for the story, but also the community and my daily life around me is what truly inspires me. Raphael is mainly inspired by his daily life, the culture around him, people, and community. How beautiful.
So I suppose for me, how I came across filmmaking is that I've always been more of a visual kind of a person. So growing up, I did a lot of dance, a lot of kapa haka. I'm not the most amazing verbal communicator, so I'm just drawn to visual storytelling, I guess. And I kind of just happened upon filmmaking through some community things that were going on, which was really awesome. And there's a lot of really amazing filmmakers on the island. So they're really great mentors. But I remember one defining moment for me was watching Boy by Taika Waititi, because my dad, he's from the East Coast and Taika's from the East Coast, and that's where Boy was shot. And it was just pretty amazing seeing my dad being able to relate to a movie, because I hadn't really seen that before. Kind of like CJ was saying, like the representation of Māori in the past in film has not really been that great. So it's really awesome to see how many amazing Māori filmmakers there are that are actually able to tell our stories through our lens. Pretty much what CJ was saying, it's quite empowering. So yeah, that's why I'm drawn to filmmaking, because it's nice to be able to visualize something in my head and then put it out there for everyone to see without describing it awkwardly. But yeah, so that's why I love filmmaking.
Well, I would say all of your, everything that you said, all of your intentions come through loud and clear and beautifully in every one of these films. Maybe we'll finish. We have, I think, time for one more round of questions. You can please share either what you're working on next, or your message to other Indigenous youth or emerging filmmakers in particular. So your choice.
Okay, so we finished shooting another short film, which was dealing with suicide. We came from the Samoan perspective this time again, but we wanted to look at it from the place of two parents who have lost their daughter to suicide, and sort of the struggles of these two parents in the aftermath of that, and how they have these two different forms of grieving that don't sort of match each other. It was very hard to make because of the content, and especially in New Zealand, we have one of the highest youth suicide rates in the OCD. So we don't really want to release it just yet, only because we just want to get the paperwork done for the production company first. But it's phenomenal. I'm really proud of everyone who was involved with it. And then we're shifting away and we're doing a feature film, which is just a crazy multi-genre, like sort of Natural Born Killers meets Utu, which meets sort of Boy, in that sense that it's just all over the place. And we just wanted to do something that was completely different to having to deal with such heavy topics all the time. We do deal with a heavy topic, but we're not doing it in the traditional dark New Zealand drama sort of angle that we normally come from.
That's so cool.
So that's what we're up to. Just on that note, I just want to say before I finish it, I love Indigenous film. I love everything that's coming out. I'm a huge advocate for everything that's coming out, and I make it my mission to watch as much as I can, because you can learn so much from so many different Indigenous filmmakers, and their style of filmmaking is always adds to the palette as you're creating something new. So yeah, thank you, kia ora, and malolele.
Tēnā koe.
I guess I'll take the second question. Like when you said off the top that the film Dear Friend had a lot of authenticity and wisdom, and I think a lot of that came from Tyra Crosschild, the writer of the film, and so I have to really give her a lot of credit for that. And my role was just kind of amplifying and bringing her story to life, and I think for like our film, like it was made, like I run this collective on my reserve called the Napi Collective, and I teach and develop young Indigenous talent behind the camera, in front of the camera. We've made 6 short narrative films, all with like first-time directors, actors, editors, everything. And so like this film was made with by Indigenous youth behind the camera and in front of the camera. And a lot of things when I'm teaching youth or I'm talking about storytelling, I think a lot of times we get put into a little brown box. We don't, it's always like, oh, an Indigenous horror film, an Indigenous sci-fi film. And then, like sometimes we believe we put ourselves in that box too, I think. Like we don't watch a Judd Apatow movie and be like, hey, this is a white rom-com movie. Why do we have to like preface everything with like Indigenous, like, I think, like these films can just happen to have brown people, in the roles and happen to take place on the reserve. We don't have to preface it with Indigenous or whatever. And so when I started the Napi Collective, that's one thing that I said from the beginning, you guys can make anything you want. And I think, as a youth growing up, I'd always go to these conferences or go to a workshop, and I was like, hey, can you make a film about Indigenous, I don't know, like addiction or suicide or all these like really massive topics, and you're just like a kid trying to, enjoy your week off, going to this summit or something, and you get you get, they want to hear the youth perspective on this. And so I think sometimes that's really unfair to put on youth. And so when I started the collective, I was like, let's make whatever you want to make. And we've made things like, you know, like a Mad Max type film on the reserve. And we've made like horror films, like Tales from the Res. It's like kind of Tales from the Crypt. And we've made, yeah, just like a film like Superbad, you know, like, it takes place at a house party on the res. And so all our films take place in Siksika, but they don't necessarily have to be, you know, kind of res films or indigenous films. They're just our stories, and that's just regular life to us.
That's so cool. I want to see all these films. I want to see all the films that you're working on, all of you.
Started that very eloquently. I'll start with the second question and then go into just what I'm working on now. But I think any advice that I'd give to like Indigenous youth who are like looking to work in media or who currently are and are emerging, I want to echo Trevor a lot in the sense of don't feel like you have to create like Indigenous trauma media, because I feel like we're definitely pushed a lot to do that, just because we have so much trauma. But something that I'm trying to do more of too in my own work is to like make stuff that's more happy, make stuff that's more healing, and encourage that part, because I think a lot of like Indigenous culture is that we laugh, and that laughter is truly medicine. And I think it's time that we can start to have happy, funny things a lot more rather than sad things. I mean, it's still good to have that sort of content out there, and there's definitely a time and place for it. I'm definitely still making stuff that's a little bit more on the sad side, but I think is that we can start doing that, and that we're going to have a place, and there's platforms that are being created in order for these next generations to be able to create this sort of content and to have people uplift it. And I think just continuing to uplift each other as filmmakers and encouraging each other, supporting each other, helping each other any way that we can, because I think it makes it a lot easier, because sometimes it can be difficult working with non-Indigenous filmmakers, but do what you can. And then just for what I'm working on right now, currently I'm working on a 4-part Crave original documentary series with Ryan McMahon. It's based on his Canada Land podcast series called Thunder Bay. And it's an investigative series, I guess, uncovering the truth of the recent deaths that have happened within Thunder Bay. And all the deaths have been Indigenous deaths. Thunder Bay is known as like the homicide and hate crime capital of Canada. And so this investigation is supposed to shed light on the history of racism in Thunder Bay and examining the failures and the injustices of its social systems and institutions. And so this series unravels the country's complicated relationship with colonialism, examining the consequences of the broken system in which some can thrive while many others disproportionately struggle to survive. So I'm working as the story producer, assistant director, and researcher on it. It should be on Crave in 2022, I'm hoping. We'll see what comes from that. And then also just working on a couple things on the side right now. So just, if you wanna, I guess, look out for my work, you can follow me on social media. Across all platforms, you can find me at Go for Victoria.
Amazing. So important.
Bueno, nosotros en estos momentos nos encontramos en la etapa de la construcción de la próxima película. Es un poco ambicioso el proyecto porque tenemos 3 propuestas en mente, ¿no? Una es realizar una película, un largometraje, y un poco para nosotros no es fácil, ¿no? Hacer una película es bastante complicado, pero no imposible. Tratamos de mejorar cada día. Cuando vemos Matuna, pues es como el primer paso que nosotros damos en la ficción. Igual, ¿no? Pues entendemos y tenemos claro que tenemos que fortalecer mucho más digamos que esas debilidades que tuvimos en ese primer paso. Por eso ahorita estamos trabajando lo que ha sido del 2021, nos encontramos pues trabajándole mucho a un proyecto que se llama Durúa, que va a ser un largometraje. Y lo otro también es una animación. Bueno, no es fácil, pero estamos trabajando con el colectivo para ver si el próximo año podemos realizar esa animación también, que es de un corto sobre un guerrero Wiwa de la Sierra Nevada. Entonces nos encontramos como en esos dos proyectos y pues como mensaje pues a los demás, a la juventud o a los jóvenes, es que nada, sin miedo, toca coger la cámara, y porque esa es la herramienta que tenemos para contar historia, para mostrar nuestra cultura, y, y no hay mejor cosa o lo mejor cuando uno cuenta desde adentro y no desde afuera, ¿no? Esa mirada propia, ese contar de las historias desde adentro, es lo más bonito, ¿no? Nosotros iniciamos igual como todo, con mucho miedo cuando iniciamos. Realmente no teníamos claro para dónde íbamos, solo queríamos contar historias, solo queríamos ser nosotros mismos, pero con el pasar del tiempo pues se van adquiriendo más conocimiento y eso nos motiva cada día más, trabajarle más arduo a este tipo de proyecto y más llegar a un espacio tan importante como es este. Aún eso nos motiva más para seguir trabajándole al cine.
Gracias, Rafael. I'm gonna give the translator a moment to be able to share the translation of what Rafael said. I think it's really important to be able to hear Rafael speak in his own voice and his own words. So just thank you for your patience, everyone who's watching this, and we'll come back to share what he said in a moment after we speak with Kayla. So thank you.
Okay, so for advice for young filmmakers, I guess it would just be that, you know, for young Indigenous filmmakers, that your voice does matter. Like for me, I made Kahurangi when I was 18 at film school. I had no idea that it would get into festivals. I had no idea that it would get into imagineNATIVE. So this is pretty incredible. And if I had just gone with how I was feeling and went, oh, it doesn't really matter, like there's no point, my voice doesn't matter, blah, 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 I wouldn't have gotten where I am. So if you have a story that you want to tell, you know, really want to tell it and you have the resources for it, you have a phone, it's really great, then just tell the story and it can get somewhere. And not only that, is that it does connect people. Like with Kahurangi, it's been amazing because I've been able to go to in-person festivals in New Zealand before the Delta variant, and it was really awesome having feedback from people, like people that aren't Indigenous, people that aren't a young teenager, and they can still relate to the story. So it is quite a healing thing to be able to tell stories. So I'd say if you want to tell stories, then tell stories. But in terms of what I'm working on, I'm just continuing to trying to write films, I guess, write scripts that I can relate to, especially in my community, on Waiheke, we have an issue with water because we are all on tank water, and in summer there we have a lot of issues with that. And I just kind of want to tell a story about our connection to the land. But yeah.
Awesome. I have Raphael, the translation of his words. At the moment, I'm in the construction phase of a new film. It's a film with a lot of footage, so it's been challenging and complicated, but not impossible. We have to improve every day and work on our weaknesses, especially after the last 2 years. In 2021, we started working on a project called Durua, a short animated video, and I find myself working on another 2 smaller projects. I guess my message for emerging filmmakers would be to have no fear, to pick up the camera and use it as a tool to tell your stories, show your culture, and there's nothing better than that. When you tell your stories, your culture stories from within, from the inside, and not from an outsider perspective. Look at your own story, your own surroundings, and tell your stories from within. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think our time is coming to a close. I wish we could speak for so much longer, but just congratulations to each of you and to all of the teams that helped bring your projects to light and to be able to share with the world, really, and to inspire Indigenous filmmakers, present and future, and all of this healing, beautiful, powerful work that is so important and necessary. I really wish you the best with all of your projects, and especially in this time, COVID, and thank you. Just thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. It's an honor to be a part of this panel. Good luck with everyone's future, because always forward, always forward.
I'll just, like, if anyone wants to say anything before we close, maybe just a quick moment, but I think we also have to go.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Miigwech,
everyone.
Kia ora, everyone. Thank you.
Gracias por la invitación.
Muchas gracias. Kia ora. Thank you. Take good care.